Hey, it's Holly. Welcome to another episode of Wild Blessings Teaching Tuesday. Today, I'm going to introduce you to an absolutely amazing friend of mine. This is Jerusalem artichoke, and it is a memorable plant. I cannot wait to tell you why I think you have to have this on your land or in a pot on your porch. It is absolutely the best survival crop. It requires zero effort to grow. It's absolutely beautiful. It has so many uses, wonderful medicinal properties, and incredible edible as well, but it does have some caveats. So we'll get into those. First, I just want to thank you for joining me and welcome my new members. I'm so honored that you would join our class. I hope this becomes part of your life and a part of your expanding your horizons and reclaiming what used to be common knowledge. This plant, we're going to be, what I'm doing right now, I'm herbing around. I dug a whole bunch up today. They're all over the place. I've got them on my land. They're across the street at the farm at my friend's house. They're all over at Todd Island Park. They're everywhere they've been planted. They stay forever. You can't get rid of them. So it's important that you decide where you want them. And we'll talk about that in detail later. But what I'm doing is I'm taking these tubers. This is the Jerusalem artichoke tuber. It's a wonderful vegetable. And I'm just cutting it into like little chunks like that and throwing it into my jar so I can pickle them. So that's what I was doing for herbing around. All right. Let's start with some tea, and I'm really excited because I made some lemon balm, and part of what I love teaching about is how to preserve your harvest. So we've been surfing nature's wave together ever since when did we start? February 2nd, I think. Every single Tuesday, showing you what is on for sale for free for the knowing and the picking on nature's wave in God's grocery stores. So when something is in the height of its energy is when you collect it. And so this is my lemon balm, and I have an entire huge, actually I have several jars of this in storage, but this is from this summer. And so I dried it on my drying pulls, and this smells so good. And then when I'm making a tea, I like to keep, by the way, I don't like to crunch it up really small. I don't know what they call that, cutting the herb or something. I like to keep it large. And then when I'm putting it into my French press, that's when I crunch it up small so that the cell walls are more accessible. Then I poured in the hot boiling water. And Jason, would you like some, hon?
Yes, I would. What if you don't have a French press? What would you recommend?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what you would do is, and I've done this for years as well, but my son bought me this French press. Actually, I think Jordan gave it to you, Jason, but I stole it. All right. So what you do with is you just take like a mason jar and you put in, say you're going to do the entire mason jar. You just do like a fifth of the amount of the dried herbs, and more than that if it's not a dried herb. But let me pour some for myself too. And then you always put a knife in there so that when you pour the boiling water into the mason jar, it doesn't break the jar, and the knife will stop. Let me get you some honey, and I don't know where I put it. Here it is. It's right here.
Okay. Is this local honey?
This is James Wilkes honey from Faith Mountain Farms.
Did he actually milk each little bee to get that out?
You know, I do know he has all kinds of odd practices. It wouldn't surprise me.
You know, just little tiny fingers. I'm just wondering how
You're
they get.
So weird.
How do they milk those
I want to
bees?
see what you think of that. Hold on. Wait for me.
Oh, she's getting
some
too. Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of honey. So what I love about lemon balm is that it's so calming, and it's not only just an amazing relaxant herb and so calming, but it is also a very powerful antiviral. So this would be a great tea to make for if you're starting to come down with something yucky, or if you just feel depressed and you just want to be uplifted. I call it happy tea. So here we go.
Okay. Prepare to be happy. Is it supposed to have a lemony taste?
Well, it does. And if you want a really strong lemony taste, you can add lemon to it. But I just love it's very mild.
Oh, it's a mild taste, yeah.
Kind of,
yeah.
It's nuanced. Is that a word? I think it is.
Suspect it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So let's see. I wanted to share with you, I went to a preparedness workshop. It's called Preparedness Peace here in Todd this last Saturday. And I guess there was about 40 of us there who are looking at reading the signs of the times and a little concerned about just making sure that we are prepared for any eventuality, whether it's an ice storm or whether it's weather related or anything that would cause a hiccup in our what we're used to. So it was really well done. It was the scripture I want to share with you is Proverbs 22:3, which says, "A wise man foresees the difficulties ahead and prepares for them, while the fool goes blindly on and suffers the consequences." And so next week, I'm going to have Jody is going to come and share why she thinks this is such an incredible change and shift in our society at this point, and her top ways in which she has prepared herself so that she is not scared but prepared. And we shouldn't be scared anyway, because God is with us and he will never leave us or forsake us. And he is the place to go when trouble comes. So I'm not that I'm foreseeing trouble. I'm just saying it's better to be prepared. And when you look at my slideshow, you'll see that there's all kinds of issues with food shortages and empty shelves and supply chain. I think it's called, I was going to ask you to explain this, Jason, the just-in-time thing. Just-in-time was the way we had developed our, how can you describe that? Or Jason will describe it. But it's something that has been really successful in our marketing up to this point, and now it's become kind of a problem. So what is that?
Well, before I mention that or explain that as best I can, I have to say that one of the things that men feel positive about is being ready if the power goes out and they have a good generator.
If you have gas.
Well, no, it's not just gas. There are things that other types of backup systems that you can get using different things besides gas. But men have this innate sense of wanting to be able to take care of a need like that when it comes up. And so don't hesitate if your husband wants to buy a really good generator. Encourage him. Those of you who are listening, that who you need to encourage your husband. And they find
or
a
if
real
your
sense
husband
of,
wants to build a rocket stove.
Yeah, well, there's other ways to cook. Believe me, that's not the most efficient.
But it really worked.
Well, it worked if you don't mind cooking from the back end of a rocket. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. All right, let's get on to the just-in-time. So because of our consumer nature and how many grocery stores, including, of course, Walmart, which is the biggest, is it not? The biggest grocery chain in the country, nationwide, they see the consumption of goods on their shelves go so fast that for them to stockpile a lot in warehouses, it becomes expensive. A lot of the products that they will quickly put on the shelves. So they've got their supply system they have had for years. Their supply system so quickly oiled and smooth and working in terms of produce the product, ship it to the United States, get it on trucks, and get it out to supermarkets, that they have what they call a just-in-time system, where they've been operating on that, where if something on the shelf is getting low, they put in an order and it comes through quickly, and they don't have to use as much warehouse space to stockpile a huge amount.
Yeah, like I remember when I was a kid, there would just be so much corn on the shelf and it'd be like a lot. Now there's just a little bit.
Well, but it gets resupplied very quickly.
So what's the issue with it now?
Well, there's too many factors involved to try and
pinpoint
one. And it's not a question of, is this a result of some political move or something like that? There have been a number of hiccups that have caused the supply chain to get broken. And sincerely, the number one was the COVID pandemic, because it so changed the demand system. Restaurants were not using as much of the same foods you and I might want to order for our home cooking.
Yeah.
As well as, however, there are some companies that did better in that type of an environment, the COVID pandemic environment, because they got more business. Guess what? Amazon got more business than, say, your local grocery store or Walmart or whatever. So yes, the supply and demand system got messed up because demand dropped, more people at home and so forth, restaurants not taking as much. And so now the restaurants want to crank back up. People go, people want to eat there. There's not as much food ready, as we mentioned in that other explanation, ready to supply the restaurants. So that's just part of the reason it's backing up. Please don't.
I should start a foraging restaurant.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So anyway, what they were saying is that it's better to get things now. And he had these wonderful checklists that I'm going to give you guys in a handout. He gave us handouts. His name is Jerry. And so the checklist was just really helpful in looking through and seeing, what do I need in these different aspects of living? And I think the most important thing he said about that took away from it was do a 24-hour blackout where you just turn off your power and see what that does to your mind. And it kind of like makes a shift, like a paradigm shift of, wow, what if this didn't come back on? What would I do? And then thinking it through. And it's so much wiser to think through in advance than it is when something does hit the fan. So I just think it's important. And my aspect, what I'm determined to share with you all is the things that you can do with what God's already provided in nature for free. But it still takes intentionality, and it still takes pickling and preserving and drying and making jams and jellies and knowing what there is to eat and how to find it and bringing it to your land. I'll be doing a talk on the wild garden and all of the plants that you desperately need to have on your land. And I really recommend that. Is Andrea there? Hi, Andrea. Hi, Brooke. Love you guys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and quickly share with you what's on my counter. And then we're going to do my video, my slideshow, which shows you all of the wild adventures I had this week with dear friends like the Strohs and with the Dews, Barbara and Steve. Won the contest last couple of months ago, and we finally got to go foraging together. And they came with me to the Preparedness class, and that was really fun. So you'll see that. You'll also see what there is to eat with leaves. The dandelions are looking amazing. So I collected these this afternoon at the llama farm. The autumn olive berries are super, 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 super ripe and so sweet. If you can wait this long to get them, and everyone hasn't gotten them first, it really does pay to get them at this point because there's really nothing bitter about them at all. They're just super, super sweet. I've made a lot of jams and jellies. This was so incredible. I took autumn olive and apple and I made a sauce, autumn olive sauce and an apple sauce, and mixed it together. And I also did the same thing with an apple butter, mixing in a butter that I had made with the autumn olives. So the apples and autumn olives go hand in hand, and they're so, so, so good. I found a lot of pears that I foraged for, and I'm still collecting Virginia Beauties at a free spot. And so I've never had to pay for apples this year, and I've made so many things with apples. We've had apple turnovers yesterday for dinner. It was so good. I'm still drying them because I know Jordan loves dried apples. The nuts are still crazy. I guess the black walnuts are really prolific this year, so I've been collecting those. Tomorrow I'm going to be processing all of them with my friend Austin. And then if you're going to make medicine out of it, you definitely want to use the green husks. And so once they've started to turn black, the nut is perfectly fine. And if you want to know more about that, just go to my class from last year. And the chestnuts, they're kind of over with, but you want to have a freezer full of them because that's the best place to keep them. Or I'm going to be preserving them in a syrup so I can have them all year round as well. What else do I have on my counter here? I made a lot of fruit leather. I've been fermenting, and so we'll be fermenting today. We're going to ferment the Jerusalem artichoke because it has a nasty secret to it, which is why people call it the Fartichoke. But I'm going to teach you how you can eat it without having a lot of gassy issues. What else is on here? All right, I can't wait to show you these. They're so cool. And then I'll show you how you can keep them in your house over the winter. And you're just going to learn so much. I've had the best time preparing for this class. But right now, go with me on my wild adventures and you will be blessed. See you soon. Okay. So that was kind of fun taking you with me virtually and seeing the things I was up to this week with my friends and just seeing the abundance that God has provided. And I hope you are still spending time in solitude each day and your sit spot and time with God and getting yourself centered in Him. Nothing is more important. And it's so crazy how we live in such a busy, noisy, distracted world. And we have to be very intentional to just stop all of that and listen. Okay, so let me introduce you to my good friend, Jerusalem artichoke. Helianthus tuberosus is the botanical name, and its nicknames are sunchoke, sunroot, earth apple, and fartichoke. I don't know why it's called a Jerusalem artichoke because it's not from Jerusalem and it's not in the it's in the artichoke family, but it's not an artichoke. So I don't understand that at all. I do know that it kind of sort of tastes like an artichoke, but it is in the Asteraceae family, which is the same family that burdock is in. So by the way, burdock is good to get right now as well. So I got some burdock today. Always excited to find that. Never can have enough burdock. So it's in the Compositae family, which is, or I mean, the Asteraceae family. It used to be the Compositae family, which is, dandelion is in that. It's all the ones that go to puffballs at the end. So these flowers, these huge stalks, they can get up to be about 15 feet tall. Remember the one, Jason, outside of our bedroom window? Literally, that one was 15 feet tall. You could walk in our bedroom, which was on the second floor, and look right out the window, and there, eyeball to eyeball, was a beautiful sunflower, which looked just like, a Jerusalem artichoke flower, which looks just like a sunflower. So it has the beautiful rays and the disc flowers, and it's yellow, and has smells. This is interesting. I have never smelled a Jerusalem artichoke flower, but I've been studying it, and it's supposed to smell like chocolate and vanilla. So if you've ever smelled a Jerusalem artichoke flower and discovered that it smells like a mix of chocolate and vanilla, then please comment, because I'm very interested in hearing that, and I can hardly wait for next summer to experience that myself. Okay, so it is it was introduced to Europe from North America from the colonists. The Indians used to cultivate Jerusalem artichokes because, not that you need to cultivate them, but they would encourage their growth, and I'll show you how in a little bit, because they used them as such a huge part of their food source, and it's an amazing survival crop. The French Indians during famine subsisted off of these. During the Second World War, it was also an incredibly important crop as well. It is now all over Europe, and it's in every single state in the United States, in all climates. And so, Mark, you asked about Minnesota. Yes, or I guess Wisconsin is where you're at. Yes, it does great, even in super cold temperatures. It just won't produce as much inulin, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so we talked about its nicknames. I want to talk about its reputation. So I'm going to say it has a very generous reputation because it just gives and it keeps on giving, even in ways maybe you don't necessarily want, but it's very generous, and it's a little bit ornery in that it doesn't, where you plant it necessarily isn't going to be where it grows, and it needs to be contained. A lot of people consider it to be an invasive plant, but more of us that love it call it aggressive. So there's ways that we'll talk about you can keep it contained somewhat, but frankly, I'm just happy to have it on my land, and I want it to be happy here, and it is. So we're going to have a class on Friday, a Foraging Friday, just like we used to do for many years, from 9 to 1. If anyone wants to attend, it's $35. And let's see, what did I say? Yeah, $35, but it's $20 if you're a Patreon member. So it's a potluck. So bring a wild food dish, and we're going to be making Jerusalem artichoke hamburgers and chips. And so I'll be showing you in a minute how to do some of that. But we're going to make about 5 different things with Jerusalem artichokes after we go foraging for some. So you all get to go home with some Jerusalem artichokes to plant on your land and to be fruitful and multiply. So I think of its reputation as being generous. And then
Excuse me, what time would that Foraging Friday start?
it'll be this Friday. I think that's, what day is that? Is that the 5th?
Yes.
Starts from at 9 o'clock, and we'll meet at the Todd Mercantile, like old times. And then we'll probably go to, I'm not sure yet, but there's lots of places where this plant is taking over. So we'll go collect a bunch, bring it home, and we'll have maybe 5 or 6 different recipes that we can all work on together. You all get to take home some Jerusalem artichokes, and then also eat a wonderful lunch. So make sure you bring something to share, and we'll be making, I'll be making the hamburgers and the chips that we can have from my offering, as well as drinks. So that'll be fun. Okay. So let's talk about, it's a perennial. And so perennial, it just persists for years and it will keep coming back. It's the easiest vegetable to grow in all of America. Lots and lots of calories. And you don't need to help it to grow. It just keeps growing. The plant will tell you when it's time to be harvested because the leaves, let's talk about what the leaves are like. So the leaves are really interesting. They're unusual. You can actually tell a Jerusalem artichoke just by feeling its leaf because no other leaf feels this way. It's like going against the nap in fabric. So like if you go this way with the leaf, it's fine. If you go back against it, it feels like you're going against sandpaper or something really sticky and weird. And so the texture of the leaf is most unusual. And then its branching is really weird too, because at the top, up above, these tall the leaves at the top are opposite one another. And then down below, further down the stalk, they're alternate. And the leaves are much larger and they're oblong, ovate kind of leaves, very large. Especially at the base of the tall, it's like Jack and the Beanstalk. These things can get super tall. The flowers are yellow, like I said, and the tubers are 3 to 4 inches long and 1 to 2 inches thick and all different sizes and shapes. And to me, they're kind of like buried treasure. And I was just like a kid today, just digging these up over at Diane's. And it's just so exciting when you find a huge one or all these unusual shapes, which let's just do that right now. It's going to be fun. So I'm going to bring over this pot of dirt and we'll do a little bit of excavating. And then I'm going to show you how you can keep them stored for the winter before we get into how to eat them and all that good stuff. So let me go get my pot. All right. This has got dirt and a lot of Jerusalem artichokes in them. So I just didn't want to get dirt everywhere, Jay. So I just brought this here. That's all. All right. So this is one. I mean, when you go to harvest them, I like to cut them off a little bit lower down. I wanted to keep these long to show you. These are actually quite much shorter than they really were. You want to keep the canes, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But okay, so there's one of the tubers right there. And when you pull it up, look at all that rich soil. If they're cultivated Jerusalem artichokes, you're going to see a whole bunch of them right here, right at the base of the root. But with the wild Jerusalem artichokes, which is what I was harvesting today, you'll find the tubers at the end of these long little rhizomes. And so they're just really bizarre looking. So I'm going to put that here.
That's not quite very different from a potato. Right?
Yeah, they taste very similar.
The way it grows from I forget what they call a potato, the main stalk of a potato, and they grow out from that.
Yeah, I guess I've already taken off most of the most of the tubers. They're all inside of here. Oh well. I really wanted to show you one that was looking prolific, but they're not to be seen. These canes make really amazing fuel, so you can use them for fire starters and also as a biomass for ethanol and all kinds of things. The green, not just these stalks. All right, so let's see what kind we have in here. So here's one. Look at that little one. So you want to wash them off after you get them out. And here's a little tiny one. The small ones I just put back in the ground. You want to save about 1/5 of them. Look at how nice and big that one is. So I'm just putting them in a bowl of water right now. Look at how large that one is. When you're digging them up, I really don't recommend using a shovel because the shovel will cut into them and cause damage. So these are all going into water. And then, yeah, let's see, how many did we get here? Ooh, that's a big one. And they're all different sizes and shapes. Look at that guy. Isn't he cute? All right. So pretty amazing. You can get the red. These are white. Actually, they don't look white. They look dirty, but they are white, and they are really sweet and nutty. You can eat them raw. Unlike a potato, you can't eat a potato raw, but you can sure eat a Jerusalem artichoke raw, which is great. So I would just wash these off. But actually, I'm saving these for a very special purpose, which we'll talk about when we discuss how to preserve the harvest for your winter. Hi, Karen. Love you guys. I love what you're doing with your grandchildren. That is the coolest thing. You need to share that on Wild Blessings. All right. So I've got lots of good soil in here. And then I'm going to save these to show you how I'm going to save these in my basement for winter, kind of like a storage. You can just leave them in the ground and you can harvest them all winter long. But if your soil freezes, then it's a little bit hard to harvest. And so keeping them indoors is really a good idea. Let me wash my hands real quick. We talked about who am I and what do I look like? And now we're going to talk about what do I do? So nutritional, it's the highest protein per acre of a crop, of any crop. And it also has 0 fat. So it's really good for weight loss. And it has no, let's see, make sure I get this right. It has no oil, very little starch, and it's high in protein. So it's super, super good for you. It's high in iron, it's high in potassium, it's high in phosphorus, it's high in fiber. And so how do we eat this? Well, the problem with it is that it's also high in inulin, which is a carbohydrate which does not digest well in our gut. And so therefore it'll just kind of cause you to have flatulence and windiness. I want to read a really funny quote by somebody in the 1600s about the flatulence of this plant. So this is John Gerald's, in John Gerald's Herbal, he printed in 1621, quotes the English botanist John Goodyear on Jerusalem artichokes. And this is what he says. Which way soever they are dressed and eaten, they stir and cause a filthy, loathsome, stinking wind within the body, thereby causing the belly to be pained and tormented, and are a meat more fit for swine than men. I probably shouldn't have read that to you because now you're thinking, why is Holly excited about this plant? Because there's ways to destroy the inulin. And the inulin is actually, it's another nickname for this is the diabetic's potato, because a diabetic really shouldn't have potato, but the glycemic index of the Jerusalem artichoke is super low. And so it's really, really good for our health. And there's ways to get rid of destroy the inulin so that it's not disruptive to your digestive tract. And some people, no matter what you do, aren't going to be able to get along with it. So you're going to eat it however you would eat a potato. It tastes a little bit like a water chestnut and a lot like a potato. So what did we have for dinner last night, Jace? I made potato chips with them.
Chicken and just
And then I took these, I sliced them up really thin, and I put them in my dehydrator, and I dehydrated them today until they're nice and dry. And you can eat them raw. They're really sweet and tasty raw, but put them in salads. But I dried them because I'm going to turn them right now, close your ears, into flour. Okay, that's not working. I have a Vitamixer that Pam Blackley gave me. Pam, I love you. Thank you so much. And that will definitely turn this into a flour. I've never done that before, but Thomas Cooper said that's his favorite way to eat a Jerusalem artichoke because it is, I think he's gluten intolerant, and it is definitely a flour that has no gluten in it. So it's a great one for people who cannot eat regular bread. So I'm going to flour that up, and then I'll probably cook with it for something for Friday's class. And then you can try that as a flour. It can be made into soups and roasted. So you would cut them up and with potatoes and carrots and parsnips and different root vegetables, burdock, and then toss some oil on it with a little bit of salt and pepper. You could squeeze some lemon over it, and then roast them for 40 to 45 minutes, and they're delicious. Another thing that you can do is you can boil them for 25 minutes, and then that will kill all of the inulin and as well. So, but my favorite thing to do is to ferment them, because I'm on a ferment kick right now. And so what I'm excited about doing is I usually put all my spices at the bottom of the jar, but I watched a video where the gal put the half of the artichokes at the bottom, and then she put in her spices on top of that. So let's just put in a couple of bay leaves, and then we'll put in some mustard and a little bit of pepper flake or peppercorns, a little bit of dill. You can do anything you want. You can use rosemary if you like that. You can use cinnamon. You could do sweet things if you'd like. And then I have some pickled garlic because I'm out of garlic. I need to get some from Richard. And so I'm going to put some garlic in here. Whoops, going the wrong way. And I also decided I'd like to have some lemon slices. So I'm going to put some lemon slices in like that. And let's move this out of my way. Then I'm going to fill up the rest of the jar. Now what this gal did is she did all of her Jerusalem artichokes without cutting them up, but I kind of want them to be uniform. And so I'm just kind of cutting them all into smaller pieces so that they'd be easier to enjoy. But she said that originally when she did this, she sliced them really thin and then fermented them, and it made them mushy. But this kept them nice and crispy and delicious, and she loved it. When you get really tiny little ones like this, you just put them right back in the ground because they're kind of, although I'm going to go ahead and ferment them. Then the brine ratio is 3%. So I did 1 tablespoon of sea salt to 2 cups of water. So I did 2 tablespoons and 4 cups of water so that I would have enough brine, which I've already diluted that. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that over the top. And when you're fermenting something, what it does is it actually is a prebiotic. It's creating, you want to keep the brine above the vegetable. So if I had a grape leaf or something, I could push it over that. I guess I could use the burdock leaf. Let's do that.
But you're not going to fill it up too high, are you? Because it can overflow, right?
Yeah, that just happened to me. I was fermenting onions and it overflowed all over my pantries, and Jason discovered that. So you want the brine to be above the vegetables, and I'll probably pour some of that out and maybe get rid of a few of those artichokes because I really do not want it to come alive volcano all over the counter. So I've got a whole bunch of things that I'm fermenting over here, and I'm just going to add that to it. I'm going to add to it a lid that has a hole in it that I'm going to put one of those little, I'll show you what it looks like. I've got to find it first. I think it's in the back room. But it's really fun to watch this. You're going to keep this in a kind of a cool, dark place for about 2 weeks or so, just to watch the fermentation taking place. You'll see the bubbles. It's alive. And this will really help to break down these sugars so that your body can digest. Fermentation is really pre-digesting your food for you, and it's keeping it fermented or keeping it preserved throughout the seasons, which is what people did before they had refrigerators. So after a couple of weeks, I probably would put these in the refrigerator, and I'm just going to use them pickled like this in salads, shaved up small, or I'll make them into potato chips or whatever. And this is just a great way to keep them. So we put that over here. All right. So she said, it is the sugar that is present in the Jerusalem artichokes that the gut doesn't have the enzymes to digest. And since fermentation is a process of digestion with the microbes doing all the work, it makes it easier for our guts to digest. So it's full of wonderful carbohydrates, and these carbs and sugars make them prebiotic, which is a great food for our microbes to ingest. So our health, everything, it's so important that our gut is in the best health possible. And especially in times when things are a little insecure, you want to make sure that your health is the best it can possibly be. So eating food from God's grocery stores is so nutritious and so wonderful, not to mention free. All right, so what else do we do? Oh, there's a fermented drink called Tube and Amber, which is a Jerusalem artichoke brandy, and it smells really fruity and a slightly nutty sweet flavor. And I would love to try that someday. Maybe I'll make it. So medicinally speaking, it's a folk remedy for diabetes. Since inulin is not assimilated in the intestine, it doesn't cause a glycemic spike as a potato would. And it makes less inulin in a colder region than when it is in a warmer region. So I would guess, Mark, that up in Wisconsin, your Jerusalem artichokes would not make as much inulin. It's beneficial for... It's actually prevents colon cancer. It's helpful for blood sugar issues, helps with the immune system. So it's just a really solid, wonderful benefit. With food being your medicine and medicine being your food, it's much better for you than potatoes. Usefulness, I talked about the ethanol. Jerusalem artichokes have potential for production of ethanol fuel. It is wonderful as an animal feed, and the canes used for fire starters or plant sticks. They make wonderful hedgerows. And okay, so when you pull them up, like I was saying, cut them off and then just kind of cut them off as let's say, pretend this is still in the ground. Cut them about this high, and then they can be kind of a indicator as to where they are. Because if you're going to leave them in the ground and you want to go get them throughout the winter because that's your storage, fine. But you want to make sure that you can remember where they are. So that's a good way to remember. But what I'm going to show you now is how to put them in your basement. And so this is what I'm excited to do. I never done this before, but I'm excited to try it this year. All right, so you're going to take like a 5-gallon bucket. And you're going to put some of your... I just know it's a disaster waiting to happen. Okay, so you're going to put some of this good soil down first. You're going to make sure that you don't have any worms in here because the worms will eat the tubers. And then you just make a row of the tubers on top of the soil. I guess I have about 50 of them in here. So once you get a nice flat row of those, then you cover it with more soil. And you want it to be moist, but certainly not wet. And then you're going to keep this in your basement in a cool place all winter long. And once they start sprouting, then you can't eat them, obviously. So make sure you eat them all during the winter. So it's just a great way to keep your storage of your, although you can dig them up outside, although if the ground is frozen, it's probably better to do it this way. I think this is one of the funnest things that you can do with children because it's like digging for treasure. So I'm excited about doing this year and having a supply all winter long. So we'll be collecting quite a few of those on Friday if you want to join me. All right, let me wash my hand again. Another hint when you're planting them, put them in a place where you want them to take over. And if you want to make sure they don't take over, then you want to contain them in a container. And you can also overcrop with them. So for example, in the cool early spring, you might want to put radish or lettuce, like say you're doing it in a wine barrel or something. So you've got the tubers down below, like good 4 or 5 inches below the surface. but they're not coming up yet. So you would use the top then to put the radish seeds or the lettuce seeds. And then when that's been harvested, then by then the Jerusalem artichokes are coming up through the surface, and you can feed and nourish the tubers with the biomass from the overcropping. You can also vine some things coming because they become really strong and they can vine up with that. So I'm not sure what that would be. There's other tubers that you can enjoy this time of year, like the daylily tubers are amazing. Ground nuts, which is hopness. I don't have any of those on my land. If any of you have them, please share some with me. Those are also delicious. And these are important because it's not a lot of things that you can forage for that have carbohydrates in them. And these tubers certainly do. And they're easy to propagate, and they just need nothing to help them grow. So that's incredible. All right. So I guess that's about it. I guess we're a little bit short, but that's fine. Here's something that my friend Lynn Soder made. This is Jerusalem artichoke relish. She has a little, she makes everything, all of her own vinegar. She's kind of like me, only she's like even more incredible. But she has a little outside of her garage, she has a little store right here in Todd. And so if you want to get any of her wild things that she's created, she sells them there in next to the garage. So I can tell you how to get there if you're interested. Also, don't forget to spread the love and spread the life. So you should be able to tell just by feel what kind of what seed head this is. Y'all know what that is? It's this echinacea. So you definitely want to have some of that on your land. I was excited to find some chicory seeds. I've been spreading those all over the place. And then you guys know what this seed is here. It's beautiful. This seed has, do you recognize this? This is yarrow. So you probably all have yarrow, but this is a beautiful patch that my friend Diane said, Holly, take as much as you want. So I would love to have some of her yarrow on my land as well. So collect seeds, spread seeds so they can be scarified and stratified over the winter. And don't forget to just go and find what you've got in your neck of the woods and collect it, gather it up. Yes.
So let's go over details again about Foraging Friday. There's a few that are listening. That
Yeah,
are asking.
yeah.
So let's just kind of spell it out now so folks can plan.
Okay, this Friday, we'll meet at the Todd Mercantile at 9 o'clock. And then we will go foraging for Jerusalem artichokes and collect as much as we can. And then we'll come back here and we'll make a bunch of, I'll have different recipes and stations set up. Bring something to share for lunch so we can eat lunch together. I will provide, we're going to make hamburgers with burdock and Jerusalem artichokes. So believe me, it'll be amazing and it'll be super tasty. And then we'll probably have some potato chips or Jerusalem artichoke chicks. Did you enjoy those, Jason? Weren't they tasty?
The chips were very enjoyable, yes.
Yeah, super good.
Do you want to tell people what it will cost for participating?
Yeah, if you are if you're not a Patreon member, it's $35. And if you are, it's only, what did I say? $20. So thank you so much if you support me on Patreon. It really, really helps. And I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as want to come this Friday. So let me know, and I'll probably cap it at some point. So let me know. Yeah.
So folks should share this post and this class, share it as much as you can on your Facebook pages so that more people will hear about it. And of course, people can support you on Patreon. How do they find you on Patreon?
I don't really know. I guess I could give you the link.
No, go to patreon.com and search for
Wild Blessings.
That's right.
If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and share with others. God bless each of you. And don't forget, Proverbs 22:3, the wise man foresees the difficulties ahead. The fool goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. So next week, we're going to be talking about how to be prepared for any situation with my good friend Jody. God bless you.